Pennsylvania's Auditor General reiterating just days ago that the state's foster care system is broken, a system designed to protect our most vulnerable, putting them at risk of abuse and sometimes even death.
Right now, there are about 15,000 kids in foster care here in the state. CBS 21's Brian Sheehan joins us as we launch a new initiative called Project PA, Children in Crisis. Brian.
It is our commitment to you, to the children and families in this community, to uncover and figure out how to fix a broken system. We begin with a disturbing story of a young girl in the system and her life of abuse. This story has graphic details and may not be appropriate for some.
I have no purpose of life right now. I'm just here. I walk around numb. I feel like I have no purpose on this earth. I know I got kids out there, but I feel like my one little girl was robbed from me, so why would the other ones want me?
Montgomery County, 2001. Young mother Rose Hunsaker and her husband Rodney are raising their two girls, a 3-year-old and a newborn, in a home in Norristown they share with several members of Rose's family. Life is going seemingly well, despite Rose's mental health challenges from a 1997 brain injury. Its effects still slightly visible, even today.
I couldn't ask for a better life. I had my 2 girls. I had everything.
Those 2 girls, 3-year-old Mary Beth, newborn Susan.
She was just the most bundleless little thing when she was born. And she was so tiny, but she was like a bundle of joy.
Who would later be renamed Grace Packer.
I always thought she was always growing to be a beautiful little girl.
Officials say Grace was raped and murdered by her adoptive mother and the mother's boyfriend.
The Richland Township pair are both accused of beating, raping, torturing, killing, and then dismembering the body.
The system failed my children, my daughter, all the way around.
The Hunsakers' nightmare began 12 years prior. Shortly after they moved from Norristown to Reading, Children and Youth Services removed the girls from the home, citing allegations of neglect from an unnamed source.
I was like, what's the cause of you taking my kids? And that's when they said that there was allegations that there was sexually abused. Your children, your girls would be sexually abused and you did do nothing about it.
This gives you some facts of...
Norristown-based attorney David Tornetta handled about 100 custody cases in his more than 30-year experience. He represented the family for several years.
The allegations just became unbelievable. Like, they allowed the kids to be subject to sexual abuse. They allowed the kids to be abused. Not Rose and Rodney were being alleged to have done that, but other family members. The other family members weren't even living there.
Tornetta says the allegations were unfounded, meaning no one was charged with any crimes. But CYS requested the Hunsakers to pass a series of tasks before getting their kids back.
If they would have told me to jump through fire for my girls, I would have jumped through that fire.
It's my understanding that Rose and Rodney fulfilled everything that was asked of them, completed it successfully.
But Berks County Children and Youth decided to terminate their parental rights for the 2 girls and the Hunsakers' baby boy, torn from Rose's arms shortly after she gave birth, while the abuse investigation continued.
It was my opinion after that trial and that hearing that it was an abuse of discretion of the judge, an abuse of power of Berks County Children and Youth.
I think when CYS takes a child, they already have it in their mind that that child ain't coming back to the parent.
In March 2007, the state gave social worker Sarah Packer and her husband David the opportunity to become parents to 5-year-old Susan and baby boy Rodney Jr. Susan's name changed to Grace. Rodney Jr.'s name was changed as well.
I thought Sarah was a good person because she already has a history of working with CYS.
But the Packers would soon find themselves at the center of their own CYS investigation. In 2011, David pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting Grace. He was sentenced to prison and forced to register as a sexually violent predator under Megan's Law.
It was just horrible the way my little girl had to live and was never removed from the home. Never.
In July, Sarah Packer reported Grace missing from their home in Montgomery County. Then months later, the unthinkable. Human remains discovered in the woods in Luzerne County. They're later identified as Grace Packer, her adoptive mother, and her mother's new boyfriend, Jacob Sullivan, charged with her death. The Bucks County District Attorney says Packer and Sullivan kidnapped Grace, taking her from their Montgomery County home to a rental property in Richland Township, Bucks County. There, it's alleged Sullivan beat and raped her while Sarah watched. Court records alleged they drugged her and left her alone in a hot attic, hoping the extreme conditions would kill her. But it didn't. So they returned the next day. That's when it's alleged Sullivan strangled her, ultimately, prosecutors say, killing the 14-year-old, defenseless Grace.
After he killed her, then he put her in the closet with cat litter over her. And then they lived in the house.
They lived there for several months, prosecutors say, while Grace's body was left to rot upstairs. Then in October, fearing the authorities were onto them, police say Packer and Sullivan dismembered her body in a downstairs bathtub and drove them to rural northeastern Pennsylvania, where hunters discovered her remains on Halloween.
I just wish I could have done more.
I am the mother that should have been there. These are monsters. I'm her mother. Her life was robbed from her, very much.
What a story, Brian. What's next?
Well, over the coming days and weeks, we'll take a look at the laws currently in place and whether they were applied the right way in this case. The system could be failing your child or a child you love as well. So this is Project PA, Children in Crisis. And we know Grace and the Hunsikers aren't alone, so we are committed to telling your stories as well to help uncover the truth and ultimately help fix this broken system. We have a hotline already set up. You can call 717-857-3613. You can also learn more by going to CBS21.com and looking in the Project PA section.
There are more than 86,000 miles of rivers and streams in Pennsylvania. Chances are you live near one of them. Just under the surface of these waters lies a hidden danger, a man-made structure designed to make our shorelines beautiful. They're called low-head dams, but they're better known to rescue teams as drowning machines.
Do not go near it. It's a killing machine.
The Low-Head Dam.
We were lucky that we didn't have 2 fatalities that we were taking out in body bags.
They're called dams of death.
There are 254 statewide. As seen from Skyview 21, the Low-Head Dam is designed to hold a certain amount of water upstream while allowing water to flow freely over the head of the dam. From a boater's angle, they often appear as a flat line on the horizon and can be deceptive and deadly.
It's a drowning machine.
And here's why. We have a cutaway look at a low-head dam. You can see the structure here. Then you can see the water flow coming over the dam and dropping straight down. Now here is the dangerous part of a low-head dam. Once this water gets over the dam, it begins this circular motion and starts to churn. They call it like a washing machine. This can suck boats and people under the water and hold them there for long periods of time. It's this movement, this hydraulic, that has rescuers calling these low-head dams a different name.
They call it a drowning machine for a reason, because it's almost like a big washing machine. Everything's so aerated and nothing's buoyant in it.
Big things that people don't understand is the power that moving water has. We don't understand, we as humans don't understand the power that water has until something has happened.
Harrisburg's Dock Street Dam is notorious for its inherent danger, yet for years people have defied the warning signs all around low-head dams. Established in 1910 to create a better waterfront environment for the city, the Dock Street Dam is about a mile long. Its currents have taken dozens of lives and leave rescue teams worried and constantly training for the worst-case scenarios.
A boat with, 2 and 3 people in, and we've had that over the years where it goes in, then the water comes over the front of the boat or whatever, the side of the boat. If the boat gets sideways, fills it up with water and then just flips it.
One of the most famous rescues came in 2016 when a fisherman, thrown from his boat and stripped of his clothes by the blazing current, managed to hang on until no less than 3 rescue boats pulled him to safety.
Very, very happy the man's alive.
But it doesn't have to be a large low-head dam to be dangerous. Does it matter how big or small they are as to the threat they could pose?
No. No.
Why?
They've all posed. It's the way the water comes over, hits the other side, and starts to revert back.
This is the Swatera Creek, a view from Skyview 21. The water direction coming this way. This is the Lowhead Dam right here, located on that creek. But I want to draw your attention to a certain area. This area right here below the Lowhead Dam, downstream. You can actually look at this and see the current has changed and is now going back toward the Lowhead Dam. That is why a Lowhead Dam is dangerous from both downstream and upstream.
Absolutely. They're called dams of death. That's why we lead the country, Pennsylvania does, in getting rid of lowhead dams, because of their danger.
Lowhead dams are controversial. There are calls to remove them and movements to keep them in place. Controversy aside, the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission urges boaters, swimmers, and people who fish, anyone who goes near or on our waterways, to be prepared. Wear a life jacket, check for hazards, and watch for warning signs and buoys. Above all else, know the water.
You really got to be careful. You got to know the water. You got to know the conditions that you're entering into, and then just use common sense about where to boat, where not to boat.
For now, Lowhead dams are the focus of water rescue teams across Pennsylvania because they present one of, if not the most challenging situation for rescuers.
We do a lot of training at the dam. We do a lot of training because we're the ones that have to do the rescues or recoveries or whatever happens out there.
Wow. Wow.
Something a lot of people don't know about.
And see, my husband keeps saying, I want to go on the water. I want to go on the water. And I'm now kind of terrified. So how do we keep safe?
Don't be afraid. You just have to do your due diligence. You have to check out the waters ahead of time. Fish and Boat Commission has a lot of information out there. You can pick up these pamphlets from them, or you can order them. The water trails each have their own guides.
Okay.
And so you can check ahead. Just make sure you put in and you get out of these creeks and streams where the places are recommended. They're clearly marked.
Okay.
But you just have to check ahead. And it's always great to ask a local person because they usually know where these dams are and how to stay away from them.
Wow.
So I give these to you. And
Thank
enjoy
you.
the summer and enjoy the water. And everybody should enjoy our local waterways and streams. They are a fabulous asset to central Pennsylvania.
Wow, great story. Thank you.
More than 40,000 tombstones at Indiantown Gap National Cemetery are each decorated with a wreath tonight. Skyview 21 giving us a view from above.
And it's all made possible by Wreaths Across America. The cemetery, of course, home to fallen soldiers and their families, couldn't be more thankful that volunteers took the time to do this.
This is why, as we take you out to our live picture here from Skyview 21, it is in Palmyra. This is Lingle Avenue as flooding concerns continue here in many locations, but you can see why as the roadway flooded. Again, Lingle Avenue in Palmyra, so an area that does see flooding from time to time, but certainly this time some pretty widespread flooding here. So
Cumberland County community is up in arms over a road they say has been underwater for more than a year. Here's Skyview 21 giving us a better view, flying over Gettysburg Road in Lower Allen Township earlier today.
So in order to keep you ahead of the storm, the weather team here at CBS 21 has come up with some special designations for when weather could be disruptive to your daily routine, if not downright life-threatening.
Over the past few months, you've probably heard us talking about specific CBS 21 Weather Watch Days and CBS 21 Weather Warn Days. So what is the difference between the two? The team here at CBS 21 will call for a Weather Watch Day when the weather will be impactful enough to disrupt your routine. Recent examples include soaking rains and gusty winds. During the winter months, we will call for Weather Watch Days during extreme cold, freezing rain, or light snow. It's our way of making sure that you're aware of the fact that your plans and travel will be disrupted by incoming weather. Conversely, we will call for a Weather Warn Day when your life or your property could be threatened by severe weather. For example, windstorms like what we saw this past March, severe thunderstorms with heavy downpours that lead to flooding like we experienced back in July. During the winter months, we will declare Weather Warn Days when we expect measurable to heavy snowstorms that make the roadways treacherous, if not downright impassable.
During Weather Warn Days, we take an all-hands-on-deck approach here at CBS 21, and you can also expect team coverage as to how the weather is impacting our area.
We are under a weather warn day here at CBS 21.
In addition to not only declaring weather watch and warn days on air, we will also keep you informed across all of our digital platforms and on social media.
National Weather Service did issue a flash flood warning in southeastern Lancaster County overnight, but that has now expired.
The First Warning Weather Team has always made it part of our mission statement to keep you informed as far in advance as possible when weather will impact our daily lives here in central Pennsylvania.
Of course, on nice winter days, you'll want to come out here to Round Top Mountain Resort. In fact, Tom is by the lodge right now getting the scoop on the upcoming season.
This week marks the 40th anniversary of the most serious accident at a nuclear power plant in U.S. history when one of the nuclear reactors suffered a partial meltdown at 3 Mile Island. CBS 21's Amanda Hoskins has spent time digging into that incident, talking with engineers, researchers, and doctors.
She's here now with the first part of our special report, On-Site Emergency 40 years later.
Good evening. Some of us were not yet born, others were small children, and many of you were grown adults with a vivid memory of what you did in the days and weeks that followed the accident. Tonight, we're mixing today's recollections with the past. What happened and what has changed since the partial meltdown? Whether you see them up close or in a distance, if you were nearby, you remember.
And he said, we need you to put a blanket over her head, get in your car, wind the windows up, and get out of the area.
The janitor came in the room and shut the windows. So that was the first thing I remember.
It wasn't a good time. And of course, we came back 2 days later.
Radiation monitoring teams have been dispatched.
For much of the public, they weren't sure what to think. Some still aren't.
Well, I was at home, and it was frightening.
When I heard it, and it didn't come as a great an emergency.
I didn't feel like it was extremely dangerous. And maybe, from what I've heard, maybe the wind was blowing downriver. But, you know, I don't know how accurate that science is either.
March 28, 1979. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission's historian describes what happened. People at the plant are performing maintenance on a pump. The pump trips offline. The reactor realizes the water loss, scrams, and shuts down.
This is routine so far. Nothing's wrong. This plant is designed to deal with this problem.
What plant staff didn't know was a relief valve at the top of the pressurizer was stuck open. The plant, therefore, was releasing high pressure, high temperature cooling water, and the plant was starting to lose pressure.
So this was confusing to them because the reactor plant didn't behave the way they were expecting.
While the reactor plant started to address the problem on its own, the staff did what they thought was right, trying to shut down certain parts of the system.
So within 2 hours of this event at 4 in the morning, the water that was remaining inside the vessel that holds the fuel starts to boil too.
The fuel eventually reaches 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit and starts to melt.
Eventually, the operators recognize that that valve is open, and there's a valve downstream of it that they can close, and they did. And that allowed them to restore pressure, but by that time the fuel was already badly damaged.
At that point, they didn't understand the extent of the damage, how much water has leaked, how much had gotten to other buildings, how much radiation had escaped.
Radiation monitoring teams have been dispatched on-site and off-site to monitor for possible external radiation release. None has been found, and we do not expect any.
Historians today say their confusion led to mismanagement of information and conflicting reports to both the public and our state's leaders.
There was a small release of radiation to the environment. All safety equipment functioned properly.
Middle tower here announces this time there's no evacuation.
The situation is more complex than the company first led us to believe.
I was not overly excited about it. I figured somebody who knew more about nuclear energy than I did would be able to fix it up.
Well, I was, in my home and I was terrified.
Now, 40 years later, there are a number of lessons learned, starting with design changes.
They recognized that there were other safety systems that mattered a lot. They might not matter for a really big accident, but in a smaller accident, they might be really important.
Which brings us to the next piece of learning, the importance of the human element.
Before this, the Atomic Energy Commission and Nuclear Regulatory Commission focused a lot on making sure a reactor plant was designed well. But they didn't focus as much as how were operators being trained? Were we making sure that the power plant display panel was giving them the right information?
And finally, a lesson that would ultimately help our nation.
What we really got better at after 3 Mile Island is not just something that's about nuclear power, but emergency response. And so, the Federal Emergency Management Agency was not created because of 3 Mile Island, but it certainly, it certainly kind of indicated that the nation needed to focus much more on how to handle these kinds of major events, these major crises.
Harrisburg Symphony musical director Stuart Molina has been conducting the Harrisburg Symphony Orchestra for the past 19 years.
He's worked with many famous musicians and actors, but says Harrisburg is his favorite place to call home. In today's Proudly Pennsylvanian, CBS 21's Jesse McDonough gives us an inside look at the man behind the music.
Jasmine, Rob, Stuart Molina told me even though he's done Broadway shows and worked with many famous people, he gets the most satisfaction conducting the Harrisburg Symphony right here in his hometown. Stuart Molina has been playing music almost his entire life.
I started playing piano when I was 5, and I got really involved in music in middle school when I learned that I could sight read at the piano.
By the time Molina graduated from high school, he'd already directed music for a dozen shows.
Planning to be a math major, that shifted very quickly, and I became a music major, and senior year I decided I wanted to be a conductor.
One of Molina's biggest breaks came when he won a Tony Award alongside the piano man himself, singer-songwriter Billy Joel.
Oh, and here's me and Billy. This is actually pretty nice. Me without a beard. I was much younger then, as was Billy. And this was right after we got our award backstage.
The award was for Best Orchestration.
To say it was anything but a life-changing experience would be an understatement. I mean, it really did change a lot of things in my life.
After years of Broadway shows and even a small stint as an actor at the Kennedy Center, Molina settled here in Harrisburg with his family.
This is my 19th year with the Harrisburg Symphony, and it's been a very happy 19 years.
He says the city of Harrisburg offers him a quality of life he'd be hard-pressed to find anywhere else in the country.
The central answer to why I've stayed in Harrisburg is because I'm incredibly satisfied here. We have a really magnificent orchestra made up of elite musicians from all over the Northeast coast, and in fact across the country. Mostly it's support from just people who live in this community. Most importantly, for the last 19 years, I've been home when my kids get home from school for the most part.
The original cast album for Movin' Up was also nominated for a Grammy. For Proudly Pennsylvanian, I'm Jesse McDonough. Rob, Jasmine.
This week marks 1 year since 2 York firefighters were killed battling a large building fire. Today, we are remembering the lives of Ivan Flancha and Zach Anthony. Their contributions to the community also being remembered this morning. CBS 21's Michael Gorsinger sat down with York's fire chief. He's live now in York with how the department is remembering one of its darkest days. Morning, Michael.
Yeah, good morning, Sherry. Everywhere you turn inside the Laurel Firehouse along Duke Street, there are mementos to Ivan Flancha and Zach Anthony. It's remembering their lives and their service to their community, but it's that remembrance that really is a delicate balance, the fire chief saying it's a balance between that and moving forward that the department deals with each and every day.
The last alarm for firefighter Flancha and firefighter Anthony has now ended. They have gone home.
It's one of York City's darkest days.
Everything kind of that night was just in slow motion.
March 22nd, 2018, 2 York City firefighters, 50-year-old Ivan Flancha and 29-year-old Zach Anthony, killed when the Weaver Organ and Piano building collapses.
From finding out the passing of Ivan, we had hope for Zach, and then finding out he passed. It was just, everything was slow motion and very, very heart-wrenching.
Heart-wrenching for the close-knit department and the entire community. It's been a year since Ivan and Zach died, but for York City Fire Chief Chad Deerdorf, the pain still runs deep.
It was very, very difficult. It continues to be difficult, and it'll never not be.
Every day, Deerdorf says he thinks about his guys, his friends. History running deep for Deerdorf and Ivan Flancha, the two serving side by side for 20 years, becoming more than just colleagues.
We travel, families would travel together. So there's many memories with Ivan.
As for the young, bright and brave Zach Anthony, his smile and sense of humor will forever be remembered.
Some of the Zach stories were priceless. If you needed a good humor, a good laugh, you could just hear one of the Zach stories.
To this day, Deerdorf overhears the conversations as guys talk about their fallen friends, a tribute to two great men lost much too soon.
Watching the guys continuously honor Ivan and Zach has been humbling.
No, actually, I still hold their funeral procession, the celebration of life ceremony, and on the back of it, it says the last words here of the firefighter's prayer, and if according to your will, while on duty, I must answer death's call, bless with your protecting hand my family, one and all. Now, it's something these firefighters all around here live by, but also something that they remember each and every day, the dangers of the duty in which they face. Live in New York, Michael Gorsegner, CBS 21 News. Sherry, back to you.
Thank you, Michael.
A new proposal would require people who live in areas covered by state police to pay a per capita fee. The cost could run as high as $166 per person. CBS 21's Michael Gorsinger live now in Red Lion with how the fee would work and how it compares to places with full-time police forces. Michael.
Well, Jasmine, over half of Pennsylvania's municipalities, almost 1,300 of them, rely solely on state police for police coverage. Red Lion Borough is one of them. Up until now, that has been done free of charge, but that could be changing. Protecting the citizens of Pennsylvania is no cheap venture. To offset some of the $1.3 billion state police budget proposal, the governor is proposing a new fee.
Municipalities will be responsible for paying a fee based on population where they didn't have a local or a regional police force.
Right now, 1,297 municipalities statewide would be responsible for the sliding scale fee. The per capita cost could be as low as $8, topping out at $166 a person, depending on population.
The operation of the day-to-day functions of the Pennsylvania State Police are very costly.
The new money, an estimated $103 million, would be used to fund 3 cadet classes a year, trying to fill some of the 330 vacancies currently open.
The state police is looking to get back up to full complement. One of those tools is getting the cadet classes through.
On the surface, the fee seems expensive, so we wanted to do some comparing to areas with full-time local police forces. Let's look at York City. Last year, the city spent about $21 million for its department. With a population of just over 44,000, the per resident cost about $475. Spring-Sperry Township spent about $5.7 million on its officers in 2018, racking up a per capita cost of about $213 a resident. And the 2018 budget for the Hanover Police Department was just over $3.9 million, costing its 15,000 residents around $252 a person.
This fee would just be another added addition to support the residents of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the safety and services that the Pennsylvania State Police provides.
Well, as you can well imagine, there are a lot of people upset about this idea that live in these types of areas. That's why there are some legislators that are kicking around a model that would pay basically fee for service, meaning that municipalities would pay by the call in which the state police respond to. Of course, all of this just talk right now, and it will continue to be talk as budget negotiations heat up. Live in York County, Michael Gorsinger, CBS 20.
But before we leave, check out Skyview 21 flying along the Susquehanna River.
It's a view you'll only see right here on CBS 21 News. Tune in weekdays for more high views above central Pennsylvania.
See you later.
Good night. Enjoy the game. We'll see you afterwards.